Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Latched Mama podcast. Melissa here. Once again, we're in the Latched Mama headquarters here outside of Richmond, Virginia. Hopefully, we can keep everybody safe and continue coming in here with fantastic guests. Today, we are talking to Stacy Wood, who is the founder of Through the Woods Consulting. Hey, I just put together the Woods and the Wood thing.
It's so tricky.
And today, we are actually talking about mindset and motherhood. And why it is so important to keep ourselves maybe a little bit where we need to be. I don't know. We're just going to talk. We're going to talk about some of the challenges and some of the ways we can get through our day. You're listening to the Latched Mama podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Wirt, business owner and tired mom of 5. Join us each week as we talk about pregnancy, nursing, parenting, and all things motherhood. Hi, Stacy.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Thanks for being here. Do you want to talk a little bit about who you are and what you do and how you kind of landed where you did? That's a lot, I know.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to give you the 30-second shot, but it might be a little longer.
It's
all
fine.
Of that. But
people's stories are fantastic.
So I am mostly a Richmond native. I've been here most of my life, and my company, Through the Woods Consulting, is really focused on, honestly, women's leadership development. And I do executive coaching, I do speaking for conferences, and then I work with corporate offices to provide workshops and training and coaching on women's leadership development. But the cornerstone of all that is truly mindset and micro habits combined. So I think that's why our conversation today is so fun, because I'm also a mom, and everything that I talk about in my professional life, I apply to my personal life. You can't separate the two. We're a whole human. So if we want to be successful in everything that we do, then we have to really be aware of what we're doing and how we go about our lives. So I talk ad nauseum about intentional success, which really just means that you are setting a path for yourself. You're trying to block out the noise of what everybody else wants you to be or where they want you to go or how you should live your life and what makes you successful. You focus on what resonates for you, what your true north is. And when you start filtering your choices through that lens, that's how we reach intentional success. So that when we are old and sitting in our rockers on our front porch, we don't look back and say, oh, I wish I would have, or why was I too scared to?
Yeah. I mean, I love that in so many ways, in the sense that we all have a path we can find. But like, talk to me about, I mean, I know your kids are a little bit older now. We talked about them just going back to school this week.
Yeah.
How do you get there when you are like deep in the trenches? I mean, deep in that, like, you know, one kid needs, you know, their butt wiped from the bathroom and one didn't sleep through the night, and you're trying to figure out how to get, you know, to the next meal and stuff. Like, how do you, like you just said, how do you silence some of that chaos and really truly remember that your happiness is important?
Yeah, I can say that in the early years, it's definitely survival mode.
Yeah.
My sister has a almost 2-year-old, and my kids are now 8 and 10.
Okay. But
she was asking me the other day, you know, how do you set that schedule? How do you find time to work out and do those types of things? Oh, and P.S., she is a chef and owns a restaurant. So she works about 70 hours a week on top of having a little baby. And I said, oh, you don't, honey. Like, it's just survival mode.
Absolutely.
Like, if you can get your pants on in the morning, that's a successful day. But, you know, I went about it thinking that I was going to do all things and be a successful career woman, be a successful mom, be the PTA mom, volunteer, do all the things. And you just can't do all the things.
Yep.
So I pushed myself until I broke, really, and just really physically my body broke and said, no more. You're not listening. You are trying to do too many things. And it would put me to a full tilt stop where I was, you know, heart rate was low, blood pressure was low, super sick, couldn't get out of bed for 2 days. Wow. And that cycle would repeat over and over again until I finally started putting the pieces together that I was trying to do everybody else's vision of what it is. Now, I would like to say I'm completely recovered from that and I never have meltdowns anymore, but my body's now learned that that's its red flag system to me. So I still deal with it from time to time when I've been going too hard. But going through that phase of life made me realize that life is about the journey. And if you're not present in the moments that you're currently living through while thinking about what you want your future to be, you're just on the ride with no control. And I know some days totally feels like there's no control. But when we come back to a few key mindset pieces, it helps to keep us centered and elect our choices through the lens of what really matters and how am I going to be true to what I need to be. And I have a few of those, but what's your question?
Just go backwards really fast.
Yeah.
So you said, I mean, it sounds like you were kind of high energy, high motivation. I'm going to do it all. And then you kind of hit this wall where you were like, this is not working.
No.
Talk to me about like what that felt like and how you realized at that point. Did you go talk to somebody? Like, did you realize that this just was not where you were supposed to be? And I'm sure on the other side of that, you wanted to help others as well. So talk to me a little bit about that transition.
Well, it's interesting because I had part of the puzzle, right? I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted to run my own business and set my own hours and work in a slightly reduced capacity so that I had time to be the mom that I wanted to be. But I also really love working and wanted to be having that career that lights my soul on fire. So the process to do that, because I couldn't just walk away from a really well-paying job, meant that I was doing double duty for a long time. So I was working a full-time, insanely intense sales job, having 2 little kids, and then in my days off and my night times and every spare minute trying to grow my business on the side. So it was the hard choice that that's what I needed to do to get where I wanted to go. But I wasn't very patient in terms of the process. I wanted it to happen yesterday, not appreciating that it could be a couple of years to make it happen. So I would just grind until I couldn't anymore. I'm super fortunate. I have a very supportive husband who would be like, hey, like, chill out a little bit. You're burning the candle at all ends. And he is helpful with the kids and supportive of me having my own business. But it's a hard time to get there if you can't just afford to walk away from your job.
Absolutely.
And so I knew where I was going, but I wasn't patient with myself on the journey to get there. And I think that was my biggest takeaway. And now I have the tools to say, every time I'm trying for a new big change or a new something that I know is a long-term goal. For instance, over the past year, we just built a new house and moved to a new county and started a new school system. That was an exhausting year, especially in the middle of COVID. And suddenly your kids are at home and you're schooling them at home. And I don't know how to be a teacher for children. So it was just a hot mess all year. But I was able to come back to some of these key mindset pillars that I rely on to keep me from going to like complete crazy town and having a meltdown all over again and saying, okay, I maybe want to have this beautiful homeschool place set up for my kids, but I don't have to go all Pinterest crazy and make it gorgeous. I just need to give her a desk and give her the supplies she needs. And it's not going to be what I want it to be in my head, or like I see all the pictures on Facebook that all the other moms are doing, but that's going to be okay.
Yeah. So talk to me about these mindsets.
Yeah. So one is starting from a place of positivity. And that really means how you talk to yourself is the first place you have to begin. It's not just how you're positive and talk to others, because outwardly, so many times as moms, we're like cheerleaders for everybody and for our kids and for what we want to accomplish. But on the inside, we're trashing ourselves. And you would never talk to your best friend the way that you talk to yourself in your head. Yep. And so when we talk to ourselves negatively, like, oh, you sure are looking like crap today, or man, you really did not do a good job setting up that home office space for your child. Look at so-and-so. She had this gorgeous situation that was Pinterest ready. Or, you really should be more involved in PTA. Why are you not doing more? The things we say in our heads really erode our confidence in our ability to execute on the path that we want to be on. So start talking nice to yourself.
Do you see social media playing a role in that too?
I do.
In the competitive aspect of it?
I try to really limit my social media. I mean, we all get sucked in, and I am a total sucker because I like that Facebook gives me reminder photos. So it's like the lazy woman's photo album, right? I no longer have to make photo albums because Facebook does it for me. But I try not to get caught scrolling through. And y'all, I'm the last remaining American who doesn't have an Instagram account. Like, for real, I just don't have one because I know I'll go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I think the more that you can be aware of when you're on social media, are you getting sucked into that hole or are you using it for your own selfish purposes?
Yep.
That's totally different. So say something nice to yourself every day. Even if you're just having the worst day and your kids are all screaming and everybody's crying and you haven't washed your hair in 3 days and you feel like you don't have time to make a home cooked meal, say something nice to yourself. And say something nice to yourself about the job that you're doing.
Yep.
And it begins with that.
Because I feel like we talk about this a lot at Latched Mama, but just there's always something that you can find that you're doing right.
Yes.
And it may not be to the extreme other people's are. Like, I mean, I could go for a walk, but then I could also get on social media and see that a friend of mine ran a marathon this weekend and I could feel terrible about myself. But you know what? I'm going to remind myself that, you know what? You got up and before coffee this morning, you took your 2-mile walk and that's going to be good enough. And, not compare ourselves to others and really, truly, I think, be thankful for our bodies and our health and everything that goes into it. So,
and if running a marathon is your goal,
absolutely,
then great. You congratulate yourself on the baby steps to get there. But if it's not your goal, let that stuff go.
100%.
And refocus on being nice. But the second one that is the one I can say I do every single day, and I'm really working hard to train my kids in this capacity, is gratitude.
It's so hard to train kids to be gracious, in my opinion. I mean, my oldest 2 are boys, but I have one that feels it and says it, and then I have one that's just completely not there yet. It's just funny.
It comes with time. So I have a busy brain, and going to sleep at night can be hard for me even when I'm exhausted. So what I do is I just in my head say a mantra of all the things I'm grateful for. And sure enough, it puts me to sleep every night. So when you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't sleep, I start going through my list again. And it always ends up putting me back to sleep because it puts your brain in a relaxed state and realizes that there's a lot more in the world than these little things in your head pinging around. The thing we try to do as a family is when we are sitting down to dinner, we go around the table and each person says 3 things they're grateful for. And when my kids were itty bitty, it would be just a parrot back of whatever my husband and I said. Totally fine. Or a lot of times for my son, it would be, I'm grateful for the spaghetti. I am grateful for cookies, but food matters to him.
Yeah, so absolutely. We can't change that.
Yeah, totally fine. And as they've gotten older, they're getting more and more sort of spiritual with their answers, which is cool to see. But some days it's still like, I'm grateful for my new shoes that are awesome. Yeah. And that's cool too.
Yeah. I feel like that dinner time is so important. I know there's many times where we'll sit together as a family and we do something that went well, something that you struggled with, something you learned. We have 3 or 4 questions that we do every night. But it's so interesting because sometimes that conversation itself just gives me gratitude because it makes me realize like how the little moments do matter and they are so important as well. And like that is almost my nightly gratitude, is listening to, what the kids got to experience that day and knowing that, the last 40 years of my life have led up to this point where we're all sitting at, a dinner table with food in front of us and a roof over our head. And there's so much, to be, thankful for. So,
and when I get squirrel brain, like getting wrapped around the axle of all the things that other people are doing or things that I want to achieve that I haven't achieved yet, the gratitude statements they reset our mind to say, you know what, I do have a lot to be thankful for. And it allows you then to come back and be positive with yourself and dig back into an affirmation statement for yourself.
Gratitude is such, I feel like it's talked a lot about right now, but it's still, I feel like, underrated. Like, it is something that even on my worst days, if I can pull myself back to gratitude, or I can just remember to send one email to somebody who matters to me, or somebody who showed up for me, like, it can completely change my thought process on everything.
Yeah.
So it's very, very powerful. So if you're not practicing gratitude, try it.
Yes. It doesn't have to be a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Not
You
at all.
just say, I'm grateful for name one thing.
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
All right. What is next?
Intentional thought. So where we put our intentions is where our attention goes.
Okay.
And this is such a mantra for life, right?
It's so funny because like this is not me. I can track with you with positivity. I can track with you with gratitude, and then this intentional thought thing stresses me the hell out.
So
But
what is stressful to you about it?
To me, I feel like, and I watch people. I watch other business owners. I watch other mothers just throw stuff out there, and they're like, if I put this out here, if I plan this, I think it's the idea that if I visualize success and it doesn't happen, what happens to the positivity piece? What happens to the gratitude piece?
Yeah.
And does the whole house of cards start to fall?
Yeah, because that's scary. It's a way of being vulnerable, right?
Uh-huh.
You're saying to the universe, and whether you're religious or not, like there is a universe, whether you believe in God or not, there's energy around us. So you're saying to the world, like, be on notice. This is what I intend to do. So if it doesn't come true, like, does that make me a failure?
Yeah. Like where does the gratitude and positivity come from if the intentional thought does not happen the way you plan it to?
So what I've found with that is it's totally scary to start trusting an intentional thought and putting it out there. But it does two things. One, it raises the stakes so that your radar is up and you're like, well, I better find a way to make this happen because I said I was going to, and this is what I want. And you start to really then filter, what do I want? Or am I just saying something that sounds awesome, but I don't really want to work towards? The other thing is sometimes we're really surprised in how the gift comes back to us. So we might think, I want my business to be successful in X, Y, and Z, or I want my kids to end up getting into this school and go in this direction. But when it veers left and does the universe provide something else for you, there's a moment where you can pause and come back to being grateful and say, man, I'm really glad that this road went in a way I didn't know it was going to go. So
I mean, but I feel like I can track that whole little like, hey, put good stuff into the universe, like be a good person. My road goes this way. How great is it that it's going this way? But like, I can't get there. Like people tell me, like, ask me all the time, like, what's the plan for Latched Mama? Like, how big do you want it to be? Like, what's the next? And I can quickly tell them like, hey, the clothes don't matter. The clothes are just, a revenue stream to build community, to support women, to move them forward. And that's as far as I'll go with it. I won't say, hey, I hope our book comes out in the fall of 2022 and I hope this happens and this happens, because I think I've probably learned through motherhood as well as entrepreneurship, as well as COVID, that you can't really control the timeline on anything.
And you know what? I would argue that you're still having intentional thoughts because you don't have to have a timeline attached to it for it to be intentional. You just told me what your intention is for the business.
Yeah.
And that is your compass from which you make all your other decisions.
Yep.
So you're already doing
intentional.
it.
Okay.
You're there.
I just don't like that whole idea of putting it in a box and like actually like saying like, this is what I want to happen when, and then it doesn't happen. I feel like, not that I can't go with the flow because I have 5 kids. I mean, that's my entire life at this point. But like kind of bobbing and weaving and stuff. And then, but I can say that when things don't go exactly as planned, the easiest way to kind of get back on that path is exactly what you just said. It's finding the gratitude and finding the positivity in the way that the path has changed.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. I've set lots of timelines and deadlines for myself, and I've missed a lot of timelines and deadlines for myself. And I just sort of take that as the universe saying, hey, lady, you're not being realistic. And it's okay. The first 2 times I missed, I hear what you're saying. I was like devastated on the floor. Like, why am I doing this? I'm such a failure. But you see the progress going and you're like, it's okay. It will come when it comes.
Yep.
So if the timestamp thing freaks you out, just stick with your intentions that you have for the business as it is.
Yep.
And as a mother,
Or
like
as life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are your intentions as a mom? Is your intention to have all of your kids in private school looking perfect and doing the things? Great. Then go with that. Is your intention to raise like wild-haired hippie babies? Great, go with that. But know how you want to. That's the
crazy thing I feel like about motherhood, though. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get. Like, that's the whole thing. I have no idea. I mean, this is number 6. Is he going to be like number 1, or is he going to be like number 2, or is he going to be like? Is he going to be his? I mean, of course, he'll be his own person, but that's, I think, one of those things. Also, that whole intentional thought about motherhood that is so hard is, you are raising little humans and they're going to have their own things. They're going to have beautiful successes in life, and they're going to have challenges, and they're going to have things that you're going to have to navigate through. Be good days and bad days, and as much intentional thought of like how you want them to be raised, or what, where you want to see the future going. I feel like there's a collaborative relationship normally with another parenting figure. And, the ebb and the flow of getting to know those little kids. So,
yeah, I would say, so for example, for me, some of the intentional focus for raising my kids would be, I always want their birthdays to be special. That doesn't mean they're always going to have a huge party. It doesn't mean we're always going on a trip. But it is a focus. And so that's something that doesn't matter who the child is. I'll make that fit them.
Yep.
But for me as a mom, I want their birthday to be special and a celebration. And another thing is, I want my kids raised in a way that they stay connected with nature. They may not want to be wild, barefoot, hippie children, and that's cool.
I have a few of those to put in the world, so don't worry about
that.
I got you
definitely one of those. And my kids are very different when it comes to that, but I'm raising them to appreciate and understand and know how to be connected to nature, and then they can take that where they want. So it doesn't mean that you have to put your kids in a box. You got to leave room for each one to be, like you said so beautifully, their own unique little person.
Yeah.
But just have some pillars of what matters to you. But that leads us to abundance, right? When we believe that there is abundance and there's room for all 5, soon to be 6 of your kids to be independently who they are.
Yep.
There's room for other mothers out there to parent their way, and it doesn't take away from how you're parenting. It doesn't mean their way is wrong or your way is wrong. It's just a mindset that there's room for all of us to be who we're going to be, and to collaboratively do good things in this world still.
Okay, so an abundance of what? Abundance of lots of things.
Yeah, I feel like in every decision, when you don't look at it from a mindset of scarcity, but a mindset of abundance, take, for example, so say your kids have started school, and how are you going to help? Well, if you can't be that person doing all the things, you know that there's an abundance of opportunity for you to still be supportive. If you're a working mom and you can't be there to be the mystery reader, or you can't be the room parent, there's still lots of ways that you can be helpful. If you're raising little babies and you feel like you're drowning because you haven't slept in 5 years, truth, right? It's okay that you're not doing all the fancy things that you thought you would be doing and traveling with them on your hip everywhere you go. There is room and energy for those moments to come, but keeping the thought open that there's room for more, I think, is just kind of, there's room for everyone. There's room for everything that needs to take place. It doesn't all have to happen right this second.
But it's out there if we are intentional with our thoughts and practice gratitude and positivity. It's there to find.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. I think that a lot of times, especially moms of younger kids, can sometimes get sucked into the idea or stuck in the idea that life is going to look exactly the way it does for a long period of time. And what I know I've said a lot on this podcast is that there are a lot of stages of motherhood that are a lot faster than they feel. So I feel like the abundance thing is a really good thing in the sense that just because it does feel scarce at this point, and just because it may feel dark or tunneling, or there's, no way out from it, and you'll never sit outside at a restaurant and eat food with two hands ever again in your life, it will be there.
Yes.
You just have to travel the road to it.
Yeah. It's all about seasons, and there's always another season coming.
Yeah. And it might not always feel abundant.
No.
I feel like that's a huge lesson in this, is that the abundancy is there, and you just have to ride the waves until you can find it in whatever season of life you're in.
And really keep it that your thoughts are abundant, that you are letting yourself imagine and see the possibilities for each child and every season, like how life can be, instead of saying, man, it's really hard, or we have these challenges, and just sort of shutting down.
Do you think any of that sets some sort of like unrealistic expectation of this, what it should look like? Like, are we getting back into like the idea of, I want it. My thoughts are abundant. I want them to be like, so for example, we talked about this a couple podcasts ago, signed my son up for a football camp. I was like, this is going to be great. He's fantastic. He's athletic. He's coordinated. It's going to be great. And then he went to it, and it was absolutely terrible. And he's like, I'm never playing that sport again.
Aww.
Don't ever picture me ever on a football field again. And I mean, I never pictured him as like a football player, but I always pictured him as like, kind of like a sporty little kid. He wants to live in a hut in the woods and like climb trees for the rest of his life. He wants to be like a little barefoot hippie. But like those thoughts of abundance, I had to kind of twist my head a little bit and think differently on.
Yeah. Well, I think that's different than abundance, right? Like the abundant way of seeing that is that there are many paths where my child can go.
Okay.
And if I'm an abundant thinker, I know that my child will find his path, whatever that ends up being.
So there's opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But it also brings us to the last which pillar.
Brings us right there. Yep.
Curiosity. So you know how when our kids are little, if you've ever had a child old enough yet to watch to learn how to walk, it's like this slow motion, painful thing. Like they get up, they fall over. They get up, they fall over. They rarely cry. They just keep, or if they cry, it's for a few seconds, and they get up and they try again. They keep trying because it's built into our DNA that we're curious and we want to move forward and learn how to do these things. But somewhere between childhood and adulthood, we squash that energy in humans, and we tamp it down, and we say, don't try because you might fail. But we were literally born in this world to fail. Otherwise, you don't learn how to walk. You don't learn how to crawl. You don't learn how to feed yourself.
Absolutely.
So we need to regain that curiosity of failing forward and saying, I want to allow myself to try new things or experience new things, or try a new approach to motherhood or a new approach to disciplining my kids, because what I'm doing is not working. And it's okay if it doesn't work out the way that I want it to, because I'm going to take what I learned from that and apply it to the next time I try something different.
Yeah, I think that, I 100% agree, and I could put that into business, and I could put that into a lot of things. I feel like we've created a culture, though, in motherhood that doesn't accept failure very well.
Right.
I think we've created this very shameful culture where, we're very, very quick to judge what other mothers are doing. Like you said, for example, you try something and it doesn't work. Do you try a different method the next time or whatever? And that happens all the time in our communities where somebody says, hey, I've tried this way of, not reinforcing bad habits in my children. I don't want to use the term discipline.
Right.
I want to try something else. And then there are, 1.5 million answers of what not to do because you're going to ruin your kid. Or maybe a mom says, hey, my kid hasn't slept in 1.5 years. I need them out of my bed, or I need to wean them, or whatever. Like, what should I do? Or I'm curious into another option. But suddenly you have 50 million people who say, well, don't let them cry it out, or do let them cry it out. Or, it's just this culture where I feel like you just said, it's not just failing that's looked down upon. It's actually the curiosity of looking for an alternate way of doing things.
Yeah. And I think it kind of comes back to what we started with, which is social media is too many opinions too fast and too close from people who don't know you. And people will say anything when they can hide behind social media feed.
100%. Yep.
They would never say that stuff to your face. So I think if you're a new mom and you're listening, especially a new mom, because I feel like when I was a new mom with my first child, I was so worried that I was going to make every choice wrong. And I just knew I was doing it wrong and was really scared to screw her up and ruin her for life and not to get it right. And I had to let go of some of that perfectionism. She was certainly sent to this earth to teach me to let go of perfectionism. But
I feel like many of our children are, especially those firstborns, for sure.
But I think what helps so many moms out there is instead of just asking the whole universe, have a couple of people that you know and you trust that you can go to and one-on-one say, hey, what do you think about this? Or if you're lucky enough to have a partner in your life who you're raising your kids with, you two talk it out and figure out what's going to work for me. If you have a relationship with your mom where you can have those open conversations, but find a couple of people where you can really explore in a safe way the curiosity of how to do it. Or you know what? Screw everybody else and don't tell them and just try it.
Yep.
And if it doesn't work, then nobody has to know.
Yeah. And be confident, be confident in your ability to raise your kids and, know what's best for them.
Yeah.
And you're also going to fail.
You are. And I have
time.
this long-standing joke with a couple of my girlfriends where we'll text each other and be like, Mom, fail number 7,842.
Yeah.
And we blatantly share with each other the stupid choices that we made thinking they were going to be good. And it blows up in your face.
Hashtag football camp. What the heck was I thinking?
Oh.
I had no idea. I had no idea that there was this whole culture that was very intense. I thought he was just going to go catch a football and play around. No, it was the most intense week of his life. And he was never again.
Not gonna happen.
Never again, Mom.
We paid for a whole season of flag football when our son was 6. And he sat on the sidelines the whole time. And he loves throwing the football. But it was way too intense. And so
way too intense.
Okay, you'll show up, but you don't have to play.
Yeah,
so
100%. I mean, it was fine, but it's just funny because you sometimes make those things that you think are going to be fantastic for your children. And then you're so like, yeah, well, we're going to learn from this and you're going to finish the week and we're not going to give up and we're going to learn what lessons we can and move forward.
Never, ever have to go back again.
This has been fantastic. Tell me a little bit about where people can find you and learn more. Yes. You have a book too, don't you?
I do have a book.
Okay.
So the best place to find me is on my website, ttwoods.com.
Okay.
Because Through the Woods is way too long to type.
Okay.
The other place I hang out for social media really honestly is LinkedIn.
Okay.
You won't find me very active on Facebook. I am there, but rarely there. I have a little book that I wrote a couple of years ago, and it's called
Journey Through the Woods.
Journey Through the Woods.
Plug it. I love it.
Yes. Really, I wrote this book because I have a short attention span, so I wrote a book that I would actually read and finish. And it's designed to be an interactive taste of coaching. So if you've never had coaching, but you're thinking, I wonder what it would be like to have someone who's in my corner as an accountability partner to push me to be comfortably uncomfortable as I explore what's next in my life or finding my own voice and finding my confidence. The book is a 30-day process. It's very short amount of time each day. It's one question and exercise. And it's just a glimpse, a little light taste of coaching if you're curious. But it's on Amazon. Cool. You can find it there.
Love it. Well, thank you so much.
It was great talking with you.
This was fun. All right, guys, everybody, be intentional with your mindsets.
That's right.